you are trying to have a fast track to success, if it's not happening for you, modeling, acting, yachting will always promise you connection. It will promise that you will meet high up people who are the decision makers. It might not always be true. They're going to promise you that you're going to meet some big name.
She says, a guy sent me a tape of this model/actress 4 years ago.
He was a deal or no deal suitcase holder. And then all of a sudden she ends up marrying into the royal family. How is that possible?
Then she says, her name is Meghan, and she's about to marry a prince in England.
They say there are certain words you never want spoken out loud. Not because they're illegal, not because they're untrue, but because once they're said, the story can never go back to the way it was. And that's exactly what happened the moment Lady Colin Campbell stopped dancing around the issue and finally said the phrase people had whispered for years.
J.R. Molinger has allowed Harry to say about some of the accusations against Meghan, including that she was a yacht girl. That's right.
She didn't soften it, she didn't disguise it, she didn't apologize for it. And according to multiple insiders, the reaction behind the scenes was instant. Anger, panic, and something far more telling, silence. Because when someone rages but refuses to respond publicly, it's rarely confidence, it's fear of what answering might unlock. But the real shock wasn't the phrase itself, it was why that phrase hit such a nerve.
Meghan used to entertain as a yacht girl. Now, I'm not saying it's true, but I am saying that version of events is out there. Harry knows it.
For years, Meghan Markle's public image has been carefully constructed, every detail polished, every chapter neatly edited, a modern fairy tale designed for headlines, streaming deals, and carefully timed interviews. So when Lady Colin Campbell casually referred to a yacht past, it wasn't just gossip, it was a crack in the glass. That phrase carries weight, not legally, not formally, but culturally. It points to a world most people never see, a world of private travel, elite access, and social circles where introductions matter more than resumes.
Yachting is one of the entertainment industry's biggest open secrets, with A-list stars, including models and influencers, being rumored to have been involved in.
And Lady Colin Campbell didn't explain it. She didn't need to, because the internet already knew what she meant. Within hours, clips spread, old discussions resurfaced, archived posts were shared again, and suddenly, a narrative that had been treated as taboo was back in the open.
I've seen more than one thing. Let me put it this way.
But what made it explosive wasn't curiosity, it was the reaction. Meghan was furious. Not amused, not dismissive, furious. And that's important, because Meghan has never been shy about responding to criticism. We've seen statements, legal threats, long interviews explaining her side of the story. But this time, there was nothing. No denial, no clarification, no carefully worded press release.
When it was almost planned. Do you know what I mean?
If that's the case, all I can say is that Meghan should have realized that it's always better to go forwards than backwards.
And silence, in moments like this, speaks louder than outrage. Because if a claim is absurd, you swat it away. If it's offensive, you condemn it. If it's false, you correct it. But if responding risks confirming something you've worked years to bury, you stay quiet and hope the noise dies down. But the anger wasn't really about Lady C. It was about where the conversation was heading.
I don't know what you think, but since Meghan was pushing for, this reinvention of herself at that moment, I remember.
Before royalty, before global fame, before palace gates closed behind her, there were years of Meghan's life that remain oddly vague, not scandalous on paper, just incomplete.
Wasn't there some speculation that she was on Epstein's yacht at one point in time? There was photos with her and Prince Andrew way back in the day when she was in her early...
Travel that doesn't quite line up with reported income, social access that seems sudden, photographs that once existed and then didn't, connections that appeared overnight and were never explained. No accusations are required to notice gaps. Gaps speak for themselves.
She used to charge almost $30,000 per trip, which is why she was making good money. It wasn't on suits, it was on her yachting trips.
Public biographies skip entire summers. Timelines glide over long stretches with vague wording. And when people asked questions back then, the answers were always the same. She was networking. She was building her career. She was just in the right place at the right time. Maybe, or maybe the story was already being simplified. But erasing a past is never as clean as people think. Around this point in the story, online commentators often bring up a name that keeps resurfacing whenever discussions turn to elite yacht circles: Karyna Shuliak.
If Meghan Markle has hang out with Karyna, then she was separated from Jeffrey Epstein just by 1 degree.
In various videos and archived forum threads, Shuliak is described as someone who moved almost exclusively within a very specific social world. According to those same commentators, she was frequently seen traveling on luxury yachts connected to powerful figures, rarely appearing anywhere else. That detail alone has kept speculation alive for years. What intensified the conversation were images that began circulating online, allegedly showing Meghan Markle and Shuliak together aboard a yacht.
Who's there? Karyna Shuliak. There's Misha Nunu as well. And guess who's on the other end with her Panama hat? Her Panama hat indicating that she was at work.
The photos are grainy, heavily debated, and impossible to verify conclusively, but they've been enough to fuel endless discussion. Critics argue that these images suggest Markle wasn't just adjacent to elite spaces, but actively present within them during a period of her life that remains sparsely documented.
Her Panama hat indicating that she was at work. That was her trademark. She was known for indicating that she was at work when she was wearing her Panama hat.
Some online voices go further and claim that these trips weren't social favors or casual invitations. They allege Markle may have been compensated generously for appearing on such excursions, with figures described as reaching well into 5-figure territory per trip, far exceeding typical earnings from her acting career.
I just explained to you that Karyna Shuliak, whenever she traveled on Jeffrey's yachts, planes, whatever.
Again, these claims remain unproven, but they're often contrasted with her reported acting income at the time, leading critics to question how certain lifestyles were sustained. But those whispers didn't fade into internet noise. They triggered something far more serious, because once certain names and circles started being mentioned, the quiet cleanup began. Photos vanished, accounts went private, websites disappeared overnight. It wasn't random, it wasn't coincidence, it was a coordinated effort to erase any trace of those summers, those yacht trips, and the social circles that had quietly followed her.
There were quite a few trips that Meghan Markle took with Karyna. There's actually quite a lot of pictures about them, but of course they're not made public.
The palace called it privacy protection, but Lady Colin Campbell calls it something else, a cover-up. And the more people tried to hide, the louder the whispers became online. Because image protection is rarely a solo act, there were powerful figures who benefited from silence, not because they loved Meghan, but because exposure is contagious.
But of course, they're not made public. But there's 2 pictures that leaked, and there's always somebody getting the photograph.
Look, elite social circles don't operate like normal friendships. They function on leverage, on mutual benefit, on the understanding that what happens in Monaco stays in Monaco. What's discussed on a yacht off the coast of Croatia never makes it to shore. These aren't official agreements, they're unspoken rules that everyone understands the moment they enter that world.
So there is Karyna, again, with Rachel Meghan Markle, the flamboyant new Duchess of Sussex.
And here's the thing about those circles. They're not just about the person at the center. They're about everyone who is there. When one story breaks, it doesn't stop with one name. It cascades. See, this is why discretion isn't a courtesy in those spaces. It's a requirement. The moment someone starts talking, even vaguely, the entire ecosystem gets nervous. Phone calls get made. Conversations happen behind closed doors. Not threats necessarily, just reminders, gentle suggestions that some stories are better untold, that silence benefits everyone.
Karyna hat. Yeah, this is a Panama hat. Why do they call it Karyna hat, page 6? What kind of hat is that? On major market.
But the most unsettling part wasn't what was whispered. Major media outlets stayed silent. The same outlets that dissect every royal eyebrow raise suddenly lost interest. No fact-checking segments, no panel discussions, no debunks, just quiet. And that silence does something to people. It makes them more curious, not less. Because when major media ignores something completely, it sends a message. Either the story is too insignificant to cover, which clearly isn't the case given the online reaction, or it's too sensitive to touch.
You know that when they raided Jeffrey's home, they found pictures, tons of pictures of people, but there were hardly any with Jeffrey.
And that second possibility is what keeps people digging. Look, mainstream media silence has a psychological effect. It validates the idea that something is being hidden. Whether that's true or not almost doesn't matter. The perception becomes reality, and that perception drives more investigation, not less.
These people know how to operate, and Meghan Markle, I have no doubt, has gotten so many videos and pictures of
Meanwhile, old materials keep resurfacing. Event photos that were scrubbed from official sites still exist in random blog posts and Instagram accounts that no one thought to contact. See, here's the problem with trying to erase a digital footprint. You can't get everything. Somewhere, someone downloaded that photo. Someone took a screenshot of that post. Someone saved that article before it was taken down. And the harder you try to bury something online, the more value it gains. This story survives because it exists in the space between denial and confirmation, a space where questions live. And every unanswered question becomes heavier over time. The longer silence holds, the louder speculation grows. But the truth has a habit of resurfacing on its own schedule. Some stories disappear forever, others just wait. But if this video made you pause, hype it. Like, share, and subscribe. And here's the real question. What happens when the next voice decides to speak?